Hello, welcome to another up close video. Today's one is for Tonic Stamp Club number 19, which is called Picnic Party, and it's a really adorable set that has got all sorts of gorgeous little picnic elements in here, or you can use them for other kinds of cards as well. It doesn't have to be just a picnic. You've got like wine glasses, lemonade, or it could be ice water, sandwiches, a baguette, a basket. You've got different bits of fruit, some cheese, and you've also got punny sentiments that go with it as well. And I really enjoyed creating 4 different cards with this too, showing you some sort of more scene building ideas with lots of the elements, and also showing you like something really simple, focusing on like the background and a couple of little extra dies and the stamp sentiment as well. So let's have a look at the stamp set first, considering this is a stamp club. Let's go with the elements first, and then we'll go back to the punny sentiments too. So I think one of my favourite stamps from this set is the little row of ants, because they're just so cute. The little adorable little ants. And I did a funny card that I'll show you later on, where the little ants are taking all the food away. And I think it's a really cute idea of kind of using them like that. Or you could do an overall background with ants and just use like the punny little sentiment as well. There's 2 punny ones to go with the ants, and you could just have ants all over it. You don't actually have to use any of the other elements if you don't want to, or you can combine them with the picnic basket. They could be, you can curve this. Because Tonic stamps are really lovely high quality photopolymer, you could, even though it's in a curve, you could curve it to walk around the handle of the basket and have the little ants like actually invading the picnic as well, or walking along the top of here too, and do really funny ideas like that as well. So you've got those gorgeous little ants. You have a really lovely large sandwich, which is, it looks as though when I was colouring it in, it kind of looks like it's got either butter or meat on the bottom. Then it could be tomatoes or cucumber slices. Then you've got a piece of cheese in here as well, and then you've got lettuce, and then you've got the piece of bread above and below. And I'm not 100% sure what that is on the skewer, but I coloured it like it was an olive. So I'm not 100% sure what it is though, but it could be an olive. I would presume it would be an olive or something like that. So you've got that gorgeous little sandwich. Then you have a gorgeous like cutting board that you could turn into like a charcuterie board as well if you wanted to. And it's a really like nice size to place some of the elements that are in the stamp set on there too. You've got a baguette, which would be perfect for putting on the kind of chopping board, or just placing and building a scene with it, or having a couple of them poking out of the basket as well. You've got a plate, so you can put your sandwich on a plate, and you can colour it whatever colour you want to go with whatever theme of project you're doing. You've got a gorgeous large jug of drink, and it's got, I coloured them as lemon slices and like mint leaves, so it's like a big jug of lemonade. But then I was thinking afterwards, and I think I mention it later when I show you the samples, that it could be a big jug of water just with like lemon slices and mint leaves in it, or it could be lime slices in there as well, or it could even be orange slices and it could be orange juice or something too. So a nice versatile kind of jug. Or actually, if you're good with your masking and you don't want anything in here, you could selectively just ink the outside of it and not even stamp anything that's in the middle. You could mask it off with a bit of washi tape or post-it note, ink the rest up, pull the tape off and then stamp it, and you wouldn't get any of the elements in the middle. You've got a lovely apple, really gorgeous little apple, and you also have an apple core too, so you can have the ants like attacking the apple core as well if you wanted to, or you can just build up a nice scene and it looks like somebody's been there because the apple is has been eaten. You have got a bottle of ketchup, which is brilliant for one of the punny sentiments as well, so a lovely little bottle of ketchup. You've got a lovely bottle of wine, which is like very generic, so you could turn it into whatever brand you wanted to. If you were clever with the computer, maybe you could actually find a picture of a label off a bottle of wine that somebody loves and shrink it down and try and make it the right size to stick over the top of it as well. And you could obviously make that white wine, red wine, rosé, anything you want to. Then you also have the wine glass to go with it too, and you've got the level of drink in there as well, so you can colour that to match whatever you've got in your bottle, or you could colour it to match whatever's in the jug as well if you wanted to have whoever is at the picnic or something drinking from a wine glass, you can match it to whatever's in the jug. And you also do have actually a glass with a straw in it that can go with the jug, or I guess the wine bottle as well if you wanted to, so you've got that as well. Then you have a big wedge of cheese, which is really sweet. And if you have, I know there's been a mouse in something. I think it might have been the Adorables from ages ago, unless there has been another mouse in one of the stamp clubs. But that would look really cute with the piece of cheese as well. Then you also have a big bunch of grapes, which obviously you can colour to be red grapes, white grapes, or black grapes or something as well. So a nice little versatile bunch of grape stamp. And then finally we also have the massive picnic basket that all of your items could have come out of. And you can build up bits and pieces poking out of this, so you could have maybe the chopping board and the baguettes, maybe even the bottle of wine could be poking out of here as well, and build a scene like that. Or you could have everything already laid out in front of the basket, or you could just have the basket as the focal element. Maybe you got the Designer's Choice bunnies and blooms set. You could have the die cut bunnies outside of here and put the die cut eggs in there and turn it into an Easter egg basket, so it doesn't have to just be a picnic basket as well. And you could definitely put elements in front of it to hide the sort of like picnic blanket or tablecloth that's hanging out of here as well. You could hide that if you didn't want it, or you can also use this to tie in extra colours across your project as well. For example, if you haven't got red anywhere else on your card but you wanted to use the ketchup sentiment with the ketchup bottle, you could then do like red polka dots on like a white hanky or napkin or tablecloth, or you know, whatever this piece of fabric is that's coming out of here, whatever you want it to be, you can tie the colours in. So I think that's always lovely with that kind of idea. And then you can colour the basket whatever colour you wanted to as well. I mean, I know traditionally they're, you know, the sort of light brown wickery kind of colour, but they don't have to be that colour. I think it's quite fashionable to paint these kind of baskets now as well, so it could definitely be whatever colour you want it to be to go with your theme. And then all of the rest of the stamps on here are all sentiments, and there's a few punny ones, and there's a few that will like mix and match with each other as well. So if I read them out, they might not all make sense because you kind of have to mix and match them with stuff, but I'll try and read them in a way that makes them make sense. So we've got Let's Do Lunch, which is like basically the only punny, non-punny one on there, I think. Let's Do Lunch. Then we've got You're So Important, so it goes with the ants really nicely. You can do You're So Romantic, and that goes with the ants as well. We can do Let's Catch Up, and then you can also do Let's Catch Up Sometime Soon. And also with the You're So, you can add To Me on the end, so you can do You're So Important To Me as well. And then the other ones are wine themed, so you've got Time to Wind Down, and then you've got Wine Not as well. And I actually use those two together on the same card to do that too. And so I've done a punny wine card, a punny ketchup card, a punny ant card, and then the other one I just did the Let's Do Lunch as well. So, but also definitely you can mix and match whatever you want into other bits and pieces, or you know, mixing in your stash basically, so your other dies and stamps and things. So I mean, you could maybe do something like today's an important day, or you know, for an exam coming up, or you know, a driving test, something like that. And maybe you could even combine ants with some other die or stamp of a car that you have, and you know, play on that ant kind of theme. Or maybe you could do something like Why Not Celebrate Your Birthday, or, you know, something like that. I definitely think you could mix and match other bits and pieces into this, and either use the puns or just use all the elements without the puns as well. And, you know, mixing them with other stamp clubs and bits and pieces that have come out as well, like adding in animals and things, or monsters and stuff as well. You can also see on here, one of my cards, I cut little masks out, so they're relatively easy to cut the masks out. I would say the bunch of grapes was the hardest one, because you've got like the frilly edge of the leaf and stuff, and the roundedness of the grapes, but they are relatively easy to cut out in post-it note form like this. But you do get the coordinating dies for everything except the ants and the sentiments. Everything else has a coordinating die to go with it. So if you did want to do masking but you don't like fussy cutting, you could cut your like post-its or masking paper out with the dies, and then they just have a white border around them when you've inked over them. But that could be another look for a card that you might be after. So you can definitely do that kind of thing as well. So with the die set, let's have a look at all of the dies that coordinate first. first one is the basket. Then you also have the jug. You've got the plate, the bottle of wine, the bottle of ketchup, the baguette, the chopping board, the sandwich. That one looks like a really peculiar kind of shape, but that's the sandwich one. You've got the half-eaten apple as well. You've got the wedge of cheese. You've got the full apple. You've got the glass with the straw in. You have got the wine glass, and then you've also got the bunch of grapes as well. So you do get every single die to cut all of them out, and the cards that I'll show you later in the video, I have actually used every single element on here. There's, I think, possibly sometime soon and romantic might have been the only words that I didn't actually use off the stamp set. So you've got a nice kind of sampling of different ideas of using like every single little piece off the stamp set as well. But yeah, you've got all those elements, and later on when I show you the samples I do mention I have cut out the interior of these handles. You don't get a die to do that, you have to do that by hand, but it just depends if you're stamping them straight onto your project or whether you're cutting them out, or whether you want anything to be able to poke out of the basket, or you want to see through the handle, because I put mine in front of a window card as well. So you can definitely use your scissors to cut out the interior of the handle as well if you want to. Then you can see there's not many extra dies in this month's Stamp Club die set, but the ones that they have included are fantastic. Firstly, I love this little die. It cuts out cutlery. They're just so adorable. I think, do I still have some left here? Oh, I think I do. I'm going to show you one of each of them cut out. They're just so adorable. I think I used them on almost, maybe 3 of the 4 cards that I made. I managed to sneak one of them in just to show it on there. But they're so sweet. And cutting them from silver mirror card, they really look like cutlery as well. You've got the little tiny fork, you've got the knife and the spoon as well. And actually, if you've got Disney fans that you know, and maybe you have a mermaid stamp or die, you can have them holding the little fork as well, which would be really funny too. So really, really sweet. I love the little cutlery, and I did also keep. I didn't make a card with them because I know I've done it quite a bit recently, but I was keeping the waist as well, just in case I wanted to do my new favourite thing of snipping them into a quadrilateral and using them on a project like that as well, because I think that's quite a sweet little idea, especially for like a chef or something, or maybe a baker, mostly a chef I'd think, for actual cutlery like that. But they're just so adorable, I love them. So you've got that little extra die. You also have a strip of grass as an extra die, and I like that it's actually got this just one extra piece in it that like cuts between the blades of grass as well, which is different. I don't think I've ever had a grass die that's had that. I mean, it's only got one on it, but it's just something a little bit different that I noticed when I cut it out. But you can use that to ground your scene. You know, you can use it in front of the basket so it looks like the basket's nestled in the grass. You can, I did multiple layers. I did a couple of layers and then nestled some things behind the back grass, some things between the 2 grasses, and some things in front of the grass as well, to give a little bit of perspective. So a lovely little grass die, which is useful for all sorts of different things. And then this might be my favourite, and I regretted not using it on one of my cards because I'd already started sticking things down, and I was like, oh, I could have die cut that with that gorgeous stitched edge, but I didn't think about it. But yeah, really, really lovely stitched rectangle die, and it's got wonky stitches, which I also love as well. So I will measure this because this is actually smaller than the other rectangle dies we've had in Tonic die sets like in the last year or so. So this one is actually 5 inches by 3 3/4. So it is a slightly smaller rectangle, but again it fits nicely on an A2 or an A6 card, or you can layer it up and stuff and use it on a 5x7 card, or you could use this to cut an aperture to go on a 5x7 card. You could have a nice large rectangular aperture and have the grass elements like going across it, because they've made the grass so that it would fit perfectly on this rectangle. But if you're working on a larger card, this could be the aperture and you would build your scene inside this, and then the grass would work really nicely. Or if you want to do a landscape card, I know the grass doesn't completely go across here, but if you think about how you're laying out your scene, just hide where there's no grass with the basket or an item of food, and that way you'd actually get a different grass line along it, because say for example you hid it here on one layer, if you had 2 or 3 layers of grass, maybe the next time you need to hide the join in the middle, because that's where you're going to put an element. You can just snip it in half, move that part over so it goes along to the edge, and then hide the middle join, and then all of your blades of grass won't look identical in front of each other. They'll all be different. So that's another way of like lengthening this little piece of grass as well. But it kind of depends how you want to use it really. Or if you, you know, don't mind doing a little bit of hand cutting, you could just do a slope coming off the edge of it and finish off the grass that way as well. So you've got that gorgeous stitched rectangle die and that little grass die too. And then to go inside the stitched rectangle, we have this large panel which creates gingham for you. So you can do like a gingham tablecloth or something and have everything laid out onto it. It can be a gingham picnic blanket. You can just use it in the background, white on white. You can stencil through this to make a really cool background as well. So you can actually just ink through a die cut version of it. And then you can also use the one that you've inked through as a background on another card as well. So a nice versatile gingham kind of background, and depending how you're using it, what size card you're making, they've done it so that the edge is separate, so you can repeat this across a card blank or a card panel as well. And again, if you're repeating it a lot, you could actually have 2 layers on top of each other and line it up so that maybe this section just with the deboss detail then appears again, and maybe in a different orientation behind the open holes, to really give it that kind of gingham or plaid kind of look as well. So you can play around with this too and use it in different ways, and that fits perfectly inside that rectangle as well. So past me will now show you the 4 examples that I created as well. So these are the 4 samples that I've made with this stamp club, and I love all of the punny sentiments that they've included. So I've done well, three cards with the puns, because there's kind of like 3 main puns in there, and then one just using the gorgeous cutlery. I just love that cute little cutlery die. It's so sweet. So the first one that I have done was stamping straight onto the card because I didn't want to have to cut around the ants. So I've done 2 continuous stampings of the ants, so one from here to here, one from here to here, to make them look like they're running across the card, and then I have stamped on top of it little items of food, so it looks like the ants are carrying them off. I think I'm thinking of Tom and Jerry kids, where they used to have funny things like this with like little ants walking off with all their stuff from their picnic. I'm pretty sure it was Tom and Jerry kids, but I love that kind of idea that little ants, tiny little ants, could walk off with like a whole sandwich or a wedge of cheese. So I thought that'd be a funny idea for a card, and I thought to make it a little bit different, and because this is like such a small element of like the main focus of the card, I wanted to do masking and then some kind of inking in the background to kind of tie it all together. So we've got the ants going across the bottom, and then I masked off the 5 pieces using like a full sticky post-it note, and then I just cut round them and masked them off over the top because I'd stamped them straight onto the card. And then I took that gorgeous like gingham tablecloth die from the die set, and I had die cut it for another card, and I knew that I wanted it to be blue for another card, so I thought, well, why not place it on top of this one and ink through it with one of the Nuvo large blending brushes to get the colour in the background on this card, but also then make it so it was blue for the other card as well. So you only have to use one of the die cuts, although you could just keep one as a stencil as well, cut an extra one and keep it as a stencil. But I really like that kind of pattern, and I did it in one direction and then I twisted it and did it in the other direction to kind of give a little bit of difference, because it looked a little bit too empty just being one inking through it. And after I'd done the first inking, I then just took what was left on my brush and swirled into the background as well. But then I thought, why not turn the stencil and add a bit more as well, so it's not just like linear, it's kind of 2 different directions. So I thought that would be quite a nice little background. And then once you've done that, you just peel off all of the masking on there. Then for the sentiment, I did the "You're so important ant to me," because I thought that was a really clever punny kind of sentiment and goes perfectly with the little ants nicking all the food as well. And to make the ants look like lovely glossy little ants, you could definitely have heat embossed them, but I didn't think about that at the time, and there was no way I'd be able to line up the stamp without messing up all their little legs. So I just took a black glaze pen and coloured over them to make them look a little bit glossy, but heat embossing would have looked fantastic on there as well. And then to match that glossy black, for the sentiment I mounted it onto Tonic's High Gloss black mirror card. I think it might be called Black Diamonds, unless that's the glitter card. But it's their high gloss black one, and it just goes really nicely, whether you've used heat embossing or done a glaze pen, it goes really nicely to tie in that shiny black kind of detail. So that's the first one, really, really simple. Then the second one, I went with the wine kind of theme with the punny sentiments. It actually has 2 punny wine sentiments, and I just decided to use them both on here. So it says time to wind down, and then it says why not, a wine not as well. And then I've just layered up some of the sort of wine sort of themed elements from here. Obviously you can use these for other themes as well, but you tend to have like cheese and grapes with wine, and then if you've got cheese you might want to have bread, and then you might want to have an apple with the grapes as well. So I kind of paired all that together, and I put the picnic basket in this one as well. When you've got the dies to cut them out, because they come with them, the only kind of die that it doesn't come with is for the ants, which is why I did the first card the other way, like masking the other bits and pieces. You also don't get a die to cut the centre of the handle out, but because I wanted to do a window card, I definitely wanted that centre of the handle to be cut out, so I just cut it myself. It's not very neat, but I tried to be as neat as I could. What I tend to do is I kind of get one of the blades of the scissors, poke it through to make a hole, and then I try and cut from the back. So you pull your scissors up and underneath and try and cut from the back to cut round. I always find that's the easiest way. And there's also the little hole in the handle of the jug on the next card as well. I also had to cut that out too, because the die doesn't cut that bit out. But you can definitely leave it, or if you're doing masking like this kind of thing, you could definitely mask off the front of the basket and add your elements coming out of it as well, and then it wouldn't matter that you don't have a die to cut out that central section. But I just didn't want you to think that you did get a die because it's cut out on mine, but you don't. So for this one, I wanted to do a little window card. I didn't put anything on the inside in the end. You could have put like a coloured card. I did pull out this piece of card. So I mean, you could put like a maroon on the inside to go with the wine, but I felt like it kind of darkens it up too much. So maybe a patterned paper would look better inside, or I quite like it just with the white. And this is actually a shaker, but it's a shaker window, so I've done it a really, oh, you can see the tape on the inside from where I've added the elements, but the shaker's a really flat shaker. I just took, you know, like a cellophane bag that if you were selling your cards, you might put your card and envelope into a cellophane bag. I just used one of those and added the sequins inside it and then taped it down behind the aperture, and it works really nicely as like a really flat shaker. You could definitely use the shaker creator pockets from Tonic as well, depending on what size you need and everything. They would definitely work. And I mean, you could have even done the shaker pocket over the whole front of everything and had the stars shaking in front of all the elements as well. So that's definitely a possibility for creating a lovely kind of flat sort of shaker card. But I just thought these stars, the olive green stars, are like the perfect colour to the wine bottle that I'd coloured. And I think it just sort of adds something a little bit extra and gives someone a little bit of like interaction on the card, even if they are all deciding to stay around the edges. But they were shaking much nicer earlier. Obviously, if I have the camera on, they're not going to shake around nicely. It hardly looks like there's any in there now. But anyway, yeah, I thought I'd do a kind of window shaker for this card, but you could definitely just do this as a shaker panel on the front of your card as well, and not necessarily have it as a window to go through to the inside of the card. You could have just done it as a shaker panel and put like a pattern paper behind it, or even a scene behind there. Maybe you could go on the internet and print off like a little scene of like a bit of countryside, or maybe a tree in the background, or even a vineyard to go with the wine, and you could put that behind the shaker as well, and then have all of this in the foreground and the vineyard in the background. That would be a nice way of using this as well. And then for this one, I have just die cut all the elements and piled them all up together. So this card and the next card is every single element from the stamp set. So for this one, I've used the the basket, the wine bottle, the wine glass, the grapes, the cheese, the baguette and the apple, and then also the wooden chopping board. And I just use a knife here because there wasn't really any need for a fork and a spoon for eating any of this kind of food, so I just went with the knife for the cheese. And I think it works really nicely, just building up a little scene like that. And I also added a little bit of the Aqua Shimmer glitter gloss to the wine. I think I put it on the cheese and the apple and the topper of the bottle as well, just to add a little bit of sparkle on there too. So I quite like how that one turned out. Then I did this one, which is the third sort of punny sentiment that you can do, which says let's catch up, and then I've put sometime soon on there as well. The sometime soon can always also go with the let's do lunch that I've used on the next card as well. But you can see here, this is the gingham background, and it is coloured blue because it is the one that I used to do the stenciling on here. And because I had used it to do the stenciling, I had only inked like the central portion of it, not right up to the edges, and I really liked how that looked. So if I hadn't have done that, I might not have thought to only ink the central section of it to be the background. I was thinking in my head to colour the entire thing in the blue colour, but I really like just having that sort of inked vignette-y kind of oval in the centre. I think it sort of pulls your eye into the centre of the card as well. Then for this one, I've used 2 layers of the grass die that we get in the die set, and then I've also used all of the rest of the elements from the stamp set. So we've now got the sandwich, the plate, the half-eaten apple, the jug of lemonade, or it could be lemon water as well if you wanted it to be water with lemon segments and ice in it rather than actual lemonade. And I've done the little glass with the lemonade in as well, and then obviously you've got to have the bottle of ketchup to go with the punny sentiment too. So I've just sort of laid all of that together, and I've done the knife and the fork for this one. I mean, I don't think anybody would use a knife and a fork to eat a sandwich, but I just love the cutlery, so I had to sort of add that onto there as well. So I really love how that one turned out too. They're such like cheerful cards, these, having that lovely picnic scene, and you could definitely have added in some of the ants on here as well. Like, just imagine a few of those ants, maybe even bringing in this kind of element and having a little section of ants with an apple. So they're pinching an apple in the foreground here or something, and you could just trim round that in a blobby shape if you wanted to, and then have that little element on the foreground. I think that would look really sweet as well, actually. So that would be another sort of addition to this card. And then the final one, really, really, really simple, literally just cutting that gorgeous gingham kind of tableclothy pattern with the outside edge out of white, sticking it then onto white again, just doing the let's do lunch sentiment, and then just cutting out multiples of the cutlery and sticking them across to make a kind of design going across there. I just thought it's a really lovely, simple kind of card that's you know, quite effective. Obviously everybody eats their lunch with cutlery, so it's quite a nice sort of sentiment to go with a cute little border of cutlery going across the card. And I've also matted the let's do lunch onto a little bit of the silver mirror as well, and you can see how perfectly silver mirror card works for cutting your cutlery out. But if you know somebody who has that funky cutlery that's got like that iridescent finish on it, looks like petrol on water, you could use the hollow waves card to cut it out, and then it would look like their cutlery. Or if you know someone who has like black cutlery or rose gold cutlery or just gold cutlery as well, you can cut it out in whatever colour that you know that that person has in their kitchen as well. So I think that's a cool way of sort of personalising it too. So I hope you've enjoyed this up close video looking at Tonic Stamp Club number 19, which is the picnic party. And if you're interested in getting hold of this set, I will leave affiliate links to it below the video, and to any of the other bits and pieces that I've used that are still available, like the large blending brush, and I don't know if these are still available, but if I can find them, I will link them below. I will also link the shaker creator pouch things as well, just in case you haven't seen them before or want to give them a try as well. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it gave you a few ideas maybe of ways to build a scene with some of these elements, or to do something a little bit fun and quirky with the ants carrying the food off as well. Hopefully it's just sort of given you a few little ideas, but you can definitely mix and match all these elements as well. You don't have to have the picnic basket with the wine. You don't have to make this a bottle of wine either. I mean, I know it is sort of wrapped to look like a bottle of wine, but I'm sure you probably get other kind of drinks in this kind of a bottle as well, and you could cover up the label or change the label to be something else. You could put the wine glasses with the kind of water jug as well and have it water, but you can drink it from a wine glass, or you can have a mixture of the wine glass and the cup. You could also have the baguette with the sandwich as well, you know, for different options and things. And also you could put, you could make like a little charcuterie board with the actual wooden sort of chopping board that you've got in there as well, because you've got the cheese and you've got the grapes and the apple and stuff too. So yeah, I think there's lots of different options of mixing these all together. And don't forget to look through your other stamp clubs and stuff that have come out, because you could actually bring in some of the animals or the monsters that have come out in previous stamp clubs and have them enjoying a picnic as well, or even the campfire critters. And there was also other elements in there, wasn't there? You could have the campfire and you could have sandwiches and stuff as well. So I think you can definitely mix and match this and turn it into more different occasions as well. But I do really love the punniness of these sentiments too. So they're really nice, like fun cards to send to people to cheer them up as well. Like you could just say, you could just send someone a text saying, do you want to meet up? Or you could send them a really funny card that says, let's catch up sometime soon, to put a smile on their face. So yeah, I really like this set. I think it's a really sweet kind of one. And I love that you get the background eye in there too with that wonky stitched rectangle, because I think that is going to be extremely useful for creating panels to go on the fronts of your cards as well, or just for creating apertures to go on the front of a card too, and having the skinny frame around the edge and turning it into a shaker or something as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye!